All major bookmakers had the Conservatives as heavy odds-on favourites to win both the most seats and an overall majority in this general election. But they ended the count with 318 seats, 8 short of a majority, but still 57 more than their closest rivals, the Labour Party. And locally in Portsmouth South, the word on the street was that the Conservative seat held by Flick Drummond was at risk. And after the results were counted for the first time in nearly a century, the constituency now has an MP from the Labour Party representing them in government. Shan Robbins reports.
Portsmouth South has never had a Labour MP. It has been Conservatives, Lib Dems and Independents. So it's the first time for them. It's an absolutely historic win in 99 years. And for Flick Drummond, who's only been in position for 2 years, she had herself said that she hadn't wanted a snap election called, and she was really concerned that after only 2 years in the post she wouldn't be able to swing voters to stay in her favour, and she lost out by just around 1,500 to Labour candidate Stephen Morgan.
As the candidate from here for here, I'm really excited to be the new Labour MP for Portsmouth South. I'm going to prioritise things like local schools, our NHS, all those things that people really care about in Portsmouth. I can't wait to start the new job and represent people in Portsmouth, punching above our weight. It's incredibly important. That's what Portsmouth needs to do. And I'm looking forward to serve every community in Portsmouth, the many and not just the privileged few.
I was going to ask you about the health and education, because those are things that really do matter to Portsmouth South people. What are you going to do?
Well, we had a fully costed manifesto. In that manifesto we set out a number of things to do to protect our public services, and most importantly for me is about the NHS and the future of NHS, because it was Labour that created the NHS, so I will always care for NHS to make sure we get a much better investment in the city and to protect those services.
Are you able to tell us how you will start doing that? What exactly will you actually do?
Well, I think it's a bit premature. We don't know what the shape and form of government will be, and I'll be certainly talking to my party in due course and others to find out what we do going forward.
The Conservatives have not lost the election. I don't think, Labour has actually won it. What I think is this, especially in these times, is a victory for democracy. So democracy has actually won.
UKIP failed to gain any seats in Parliament, but they had also made a tactical decision not to stand in some regions.
We're putting country before party. Where there is a strong Brexit MP, we're not going to be putting up a candidate. We want to have people who are dedicated to getting us out of the European Union, out of the single market. If we remain in the single market, we will be ruled by Brussels to a greater or lesser extent. We want to be self-governing with control of our borders, control of our own destiny, with the freedom to make our own mistakes, not have somebody else make them for us. We can do that quite well on our own.
A specialist in political communication who's been watching the landscape closely was expecting Flick Drummond to win in Portsmouth South.
That was based on the fact that Gerald Vernon-Jackson, the Liberal Democrat candidate, was polling well and challenging in terms of it was a Lib Dem marginal seat that they're aiming for, and I expected the Lib Dem Labour vote to be split. So it's really, really surprising to see Stephen Morgan come away with the seat. With some bookies he was 20-1 at the points during the campaign, so this is a real surprise, and I think young people have played a big part in that, and it's something nationally that we've seen as well. With the exit poll, we've seen predictions of a 12% increase in the number of young people voting. Again, it's just a prediction at this point. But what we can see already is in those constituencies with universities in, there has been a sizable increase in turnout compared to 2015. So there is some really interesting evidence to show that young people have made a difference in this election.
Another thing that seems to have made a real difference, certainly in Portsmouth South, is the Labour candidate combining the traditional methods of a car, driving around with a loudspeaker, talking to people on the street, and also mobilising social media, with both targeted advertising and campaign groups sharing videos and messaging to engage young people. More than 1.5 million young people registered to vote in the UK after Theresa May called the general election.
Overwhelmingly the support was for the Labour Party, and again the tuition fees policy was bound to have had an impact there. But also as well some of the kind of campaigning by people like JME, so the Grime for Corbyn movement that was on Facebook was just fascinating. You saw comedians and celebrities getting involved as well, and these are the kind of factors that can influence youth engagement. But also as well, let's not forget that young people voted predominantly to remain within the European Union, so that was a key point for them in terms of mobilising them and getting them invested in politics. And what we've seen now is probably something that's led on from that. They've carried on their engagement from that vote.
But interestingly, where the Lib Dems were offering a new referendum where it might have been possible for people to then reverse the vote and remain, they didn't perhaps go for that option.
Yeah, that's an interesting finding. I think in a lot of seats the tuition fees issue from the last coalition government would still been quite a sensitive issue, especially in Sheffield Hallam where Nick Clegg lost his seat to the Labour Party. I think that is still going to be in the forefront of a lot of students' minds, and it's going to take the Liberal Democrats some time to rebuild their base of support within the student body. And again, you look at Jeremy Corbyn and the way in which he's approached this campaign, lots of public speaking, lots of on-the-ground events, speaking at a Libertines concert in the north. It's a campaign that very much has focused on youth engagement, and again you saw that with the Labour Party's efforts with voter registration. They put a lot of effort into that prior to the start of the campaign, and for the Labour Party that looks like it's had some impact on their overall vote share.
Another Labour Party candidate who did well but didn't win was Rumal Khan, standing for the first time in Portsmouth North, and he managed to gain nearly 34% of the vote, coming in behind Conservative Penny Mordaunt.
The result speaks for itself, not on me, the community, the team, the agent, everyone. It shows people power is stronger than one power, and I'm really blown away. I know the result isn't what I wanted, but it's what we got is more than. We increased the majority in a heartland of Tory and in the UKIP support as well, and we still did well. And that shows that people believe in me, and I touched where the other people haven't, and that makes a lot of difference to me.
This general election had the highest turnout in 25 years, with nearly 70% of people voting. And although the Conservatives don't have a majority government, they hold an outstanding majority in the Solent region. Among the MPs who retained their seats with large majorities for the Conservatives were Fareham Suella Fernandes, with nearly 36,000 people voting for her, giving her 63% of the vote. Gosport's Caroline Dinenage with 62%, Havant's Alan Mack with nearly 60% of the vote, and Mims Davis with over 50%, ensuring the Liberal Democrats didn't progress in Eastleigh. For Labour, Alan Whitehead retained Southampton Test with nearly 59% of the vote. On the Isle of Wight, where Conservative Bob Seeley had replaced Andrew Turner, he also had a good night, gaining over 51% of the vote. And in Southampton Itchen, it was so close between the top two. There were 3 counts, finally ending with Labour unable to get their foot back in, and Royston Smith for the Conservatives retaining his seat with just 31 votes. This is Shan Robbins for That's TV.